You know, it's one of the most frustrating, maddening situations a parent can face. You report something serious, the school comes back and says, "We investigated," but your gut is screaming that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with their conclusion. You know the process was a sham, but you just can't find the words to explain why. Well, today, we're going to decode that cover story.
This quote, it just hits you, right? It's the raw frustration of so many parents. It's a perfectly logical question that just gets slammed by a bureaucratic brick wall. It's that awful feeling of being gaslit by the very system that's supposed to be protecting your kid. So how on earth does an investigation get to this point?
And this isn't just some hypothetical. This is from a real case, and it shows you the playbook for design failure. Day 1, the accused gets a talk together so they can get their stories straight. Day 2, your kid, the victim, gets a whopping 12 minutes. The witnesses you named, the video evidence you know exists, nope, never even looked at. And just like that, by day 8, it's all over. Case closed. This isn't just a clumsy mistake, it's a system.
And that right there, that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. These kinds of investigative meltdowns, they are almost never accidents. It's not about incompetence. It's a feature, not a bug.
Here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. The goal, so often, isn't to find out what really happened. The goal is to perform a kind of procedural theater, to create a paper trail that looks good on the surface, all to protect the institution from any legal trouble. It's about managing risk, not keeping students safe. So, to fight this, you need a specific tool. It's called the Investigative Collapse Protocol. Think of it as a framework, a lens that gives you the language and the specific criteria to prove that an investigation has collapsed, that it's really just a cover-up dressed up to look like a real process. Just look at the difference here. This slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got what a real, truth-finding investigation looks like. And on the right, you have the self-protection model. A conflicted investigator, suppressed evidence, excluded witnesses. It's a recipe for a predetermined conclusion. See how they're direct opposites? Yeah, that's by design.
Okay, so how do you actually spot a collapsed investigation in the wild? Well, the protocol gives us a really handy diagnostic checklist. There are 7 specific red flags, or what we call collapse triggers. Let's walk through the big ones.
First up, and honestly, this one is probably the most important, is a conflict of interest. It's simple. If the person in charge of finding the truth has a reason to want a certain outcome, the entire process is poisoned from the very beginning.
So what does this actually look like? Well, a classic example is when the investigator is the same administrator who, weeks earlier, told your kid to just ignore the harassment. Think about it. If they now find that harassment did occur, they also have to admit their own initial response was wrong. Their need to protect themselves is now in a direct fight with finding the truth. And this is your tool. This is how you fight back. This isn't just an emotional complaint. It's a documented, tactical objection using precise language. You're not just saying you're mad, you're identifying a specific structural failure in their process and demanding a solution. This is incredibly powerful.
And that leads us right into the next trigger, witness exclusion. This is the primary way an institution can control the facts of a case.
Why do they do this? It's simple. By not talking to the other kids you named who saw what happened, the investigator can very easily frame the whole thing as a simple he said, she said dispute. Without anyone to back up your child's story, it becomes their word against another's, which makes it incredibly easy to just dismiss the whole complaint.
And boom, here's the script to shut that down. You state the facts. I gave you witnesses, you ignored them. You state the consequence. Therefore, your investigation is incomplete. This takes your gut feeling that something's wrong and turns it into a documented procedural failure they can't ignore.
All right, trigger number 3. This one is just as shameless, deliberately ignoring objective hard proof that could blow the whole case open.
And the reason for this is pretty obvious when you think about it. If you suppress hard evidence like video footage or screenshots of text messages, you can keep the entire investigation in the world of subjective, verbal accounts. And those are really easy to twist, manipulate, or dismiss. It's all about avoiding any objective proof that would contradict the conclusion they've already decided on.
Look at how professional and direct this language is. You're not accusing them of being liars. You are calmly stating a fact. Their failure to review available evidence makes their conclusion unreliable. You are essentially auditing their process and finding it defective.
The other 4 triggers, they follow the exact same playbook of manipulation. rushing an investigation so fast they can't possibly find anything, renaming serious harassment as a simple misunderstanding to get out of their legal obligations, punishing the victim for even daring to report, or, and yes, this really happens, writing the conclusion before they've even finished gathering the evidence. Every single one is a giant flashing sign of a collapsed process.
So you've used the red flags, you've diagnosed the problem. Now what? Where do you go from here? The great thing about the protocol is it doesn't just help you identify the problem, it gives you a clear plan to actually fight back. The process is very methodical. This isn't about firing off an angry, emotional email. No, this is about you becoming a clinical auditor. You formally request the file, you go through it with the 7-trigger checklist, and then you score the failure. You're moving the entire argument from an emotional space to a clinical, evidence-based.
And this is where the audit gets really powerful. This scoring system. 4 or more of these triggers, the investigation hasn't just been compromised, it has completely collapsed. It's invalid. This gives you an objective standard to stand on when you declare their entire process a failure and demand they do it right.
And this is your checkmate move. You present the findings of your audit and you make a formal demand. And notice the language. You're using serious terms like structural failures and deliberate indifference. You are escalating the conversation and officially putting the institution on notice that you know their process was illegitimate.
And here's the kicker. What if they refuse your demand? Well, in a strange way, they're actually making your case stronger. Their refusal to fix a process that you have methodically proven to be broken becomes brand new evidence of their deliberate indifference to your child's safety and their civil rights.
It really all comes down to this. A sham investigation isn't just a failure to find the truth. It's an act of deception. It's a system using the language of safety and due process as a weapon. And realizing that, seeing the lie for what it is, that is the first, most powerful step toward forcing them to tell the truth.